Ladies and gentlemen, you are now watching and listening to Real Talk with Ronnie, with your host, Ronald Lynn.
Frank, what's up, buddy?
It's here, 5.0.
5, yeah. You know what I was thinking about on my way here?
What's that?
I think this is the 5-year anniversary of when we first met, when we did our first episode.
Oh my God, it was the first year you were doing it, yeah.
Yeah, it was back in like October, I think, of 2020 when you were running for Congress.
Right.
Pallotta.
I remember that.
Right? And I think that's the first time that we met, and I think our first interview took place 5 years ago. Maybe not to the day, but
it was right around now.
Yeah,
it was closing in, I think, on Election Day.
Right.
And we did my first extended interview, because remember, it was also COVID.
Yeah.
So we did I think we did our first interview.
Right. So how's it been?
It's
5
been great.
years, right?
5 years.
I mean,
I'm 5 years older. My wife is 5 years younger. My boys are older.
Right.
One is engaged, but it's been great. Thank you.
Well, congratulations on your son being engaged, right?
Yes. He is an engineer and a stand-up comedian.
Right, yeah.
So he's perfect for politics.
Yeah. He's down in Maryland, right?
He's down in Baltimore, yeah. Baltimore, Maryland.
Okay, cool.
Right.
So, the last time we caught up was probably, I want to say, like over a year ago, when you were running for assembly.
Right.
So what have you been doing since?
You know what? I've been both in front of and behind the camera for the last 5 years. I think when you win two really difficult congressional primaries in a field of ultimately 10 or 11 people over 4 counties, people look to you for guidance. And I'll admit, I think I'm a smart guy. Politics is another game. And my staff, my senior leadership staff, Kelly, Jim McLaughlin was part of my team. You learn a lot. And if you don't understand the math and the science around running a campaign to go with the art of actually getting out there and meeting people, you're in a bad spot. You have to know all the moving parts.
So speaking of campaigns, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I might have to ask, right? So you ran for assembly last year, right?
This year, yeah.
Sorry. No, oh yeah, sorry.
Right.
This year. And
time flies when you're having fun, Ronnie.
Well, yeah. But the thing is, you ran against John Azariti and Bob Oth, right?
I ran for me.
Right.
It was a three-way race, but yes,
but I mean,
they were the incumbents.
It could be conceived that you were running against them, right? And you and John are good friends, or were good friends. I'm not sure what the situation is now, right? But how are you guys now?
Look, I think we're fine. I never had an issue with John. I think most people who know that John is in that seat now, largely because of me. And, he might not say it, but the organization was not behind John. Bob Oth wasn't behind John early on when it was pre-convention in 2023. And Bob was very supportive of Todd Caliguire, who I like. I like Todd a lot. I think he's a great candidate. The only thing I don't like about Todd is he's tall, dark, and handsome. 3 things I'm not.
You are kind of dark. You are kind of dark.
I am kind of dark,
right?
but only around July.
Also handsome.
So I believe John was the better candidate, not over Todd, but overall. And if you remember, back in 2023, when there was an organizational line, the precursor to the primary was winning a convention. And John didn't have the name ID that Todd had, simply because Todd just came off of a county executive race. Everybody knew Todd, but the county...
I ran with Todd in 22.
You did? Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah. But to win the convention, you need the majority of 404 county committee members and elected officials just in LD 39. And I'd been running around LD 39 for 4 years prior to that. So when John was running, and like I said, didn't have a lot of name ID, and I had reached out to a lot of the people on the county committee because I knew all of them, and I never told them to vote for John. What I told them was talk to John. I think you'll find that you like what John has to say, which is not to say I didn't like what Todd had to say, but I was able to reach out to all those people. And John won a pretty convincing convention. He still had to get through a primary. At the time, Todd had not yet made up his mind whether he was going to run off the line. But John and Holly both thanked me at the convention, which is fine. They thanked everybody who was involved. But I thought I did a pretty good job in knowing District 39 to speak. If I didn't think John was a good candidate, I probably wouldn't have supported him. But Bob didn't support him. A lot of senior leadership at the BCRO did not support John because John was a bit of the outsider, like me. Todd was the insider, and John ended up winning. And then, as he ran into, and this is we can talk about this later, but then Todd decided not to run in the primary.
Right.
So John pretty much had, free reign from the convention straight through to November. And that was great. You're supposed to do what you're supposed to do to get out there and build your name recognition. District 39 was won by the Republicans 2 years earlier, 2021, by 11 3/4 points. Pretty convincing. Holly won by 12. John and Bob won by 11 3/4 points in 2021. So that was a decent margin, enough to keep the Democrats at bay. 2023 rolls around. John is the candidate with Bob and with Holly. And they go through the race and they spend, $250,000, which is a normal for a district this size. The Democrats spent nothing. They saw that they won 2 years earlier by double digits. And on election day, and by the way, I wasn't involved at all in the primary. I think that was more of an internal team handpicked by the BCRO.
You're talking about the primary for which race?
No, not the primary, the general.
Oh, the general.
It was once we got through the convention and Todd pulled out, then John, Bob, and Holly had a straight path to November. So, I didn't really see them out campaigning a lot.
Okay.
I think they felt as though we can win, we won by double digits, which is a way to save money, which is great. Then election day comes and goes in November of 2023, and we talked about them winning by 11 3/4 points 2 years earlier. They only won by 6 3/4 points, spending $250,000 while the Democrats spent nothing. A single-digit win, one of the few single-digit wins by the Assembly in 18 years. Holly, who won by 12 the cycle before, only won by 9 3/4.
Right.
And just being in sales, Ronnie, you have to ask for the vote. You have to get out there. You have to knock on the doors. And I think it was the first time in almost 20 years that both the Assembly and the Senate candidates won by single digits. Jerry wasn't winning by those by thin margins. So it's kind of one of these things where that's when I first, to get back to your original question, that's when I first thought the Democrats are going to see a single digit win in a race where they spend zero and say, you know what, this is when we come after District 39. Because keep in mind, 2025, which was this cycle now, would be the first time in 13 years that Holly or Jerry Cardinale or both of them would not be on the ballot.
Right.
So Bob, who had lower name ID than the other two, was going to be running alone with John Azariti.
Right.
But John had 2 years and Bob had 2 years to really bump up their name ID. Didn't end up happening, so we can talk about all the different machinations.
So it would be safe to say that you ran because you felt like District 39 needed like a harder worker?
No. I thought District 39 was in danger.
Okay.
See, keep in mind, District 39 is split 50-50 Republican-Democrat, 30% each, 40% are unaffiliated. Okay. So you're unaffiliated, make your race in New Jersey, in Bergen County, and in District 39. Okay. And when you lose the majority of your unaffiliated voters and you don't do the math to figure out what you did wrong, you're not supposed to high five when you lose 46% of your win margin, outspending your opponent 12-1. That's not a high five moment.
But I'm going to play devil's advocate, okay?
Play away.
So, imagine I'm John Azariti, right? And I see you running in the primary, right? Me as a first-term assemblyman, my name ID is the lowest, right? So if there is a primary and the top two win, you would effectively be bumping me off. So from John's point of view, you're kind of coming after him, maybe not directly, but indirectly. So, I mean, can you see why perhaps maybe some people thought you were going after him?
Look, my opinion, and I've had plenty of people tell me this, John didn't have an issue with me thinking about running in the race. John knew the math. We actually sat with senior elected officials around the state, not Bergen County, because they have their own agenda, and I went through. I didn't say, hey, I want to run. I sat early on in March with Jack DiLorenzo in a room filled with mayors, put together by Carlos Renda. Okay. He said, why don't you come in and talk to Frank, because Frank's got a good point about what we might be losing in District 39. And look, you know me, Ronnie. I run the numbers. And quite simply, when you lose 46% of your win margin, when you have every advantage working for you, something's wrong. I think I knew what was wrong. So when I was interested in stepping in, I wasn't interested in coming after Bob or coming after John. My interest was, I think 39 is in danger. Now keep in mind, we said they only won by 6 3/4 points the year before. When Scott Garrett lost the congressional seat in 2016,
Right.
you want to know how much he won by in 2014?
How much?
14 points.
So it's a huge
If the
swing,
Democrats could,
right?
if the Democrats can eat up 14 or 15 points in 2 years, what do you think they'll do with 6 3/4 points? Now that remains to be seen.
Right.
But you know, when I decided I wanted to run, Jack DeLorenzo, I did not say I wanted to run. I went through the math on how Carlos Rendo was able to win in a Democrat town with the margins he did. Mike Casale was in that meeting. I said, Mike Casale won by the fattest double-digit margin. He's also in a more majority Republican town.
Right.
Dan Pronti is in a Democrat town, rather. So it's more than just, hey, look at me. And I think too many candidates are the, hey, look at me. They run to a primary instead of a general.
So how is your relationship with Assemblyman John Azariti now?
I don't think he's sending me a holiday card this year.
Okay.
But look, John, I saw John at Mawa Day.
By the way, I saw John too the other day. I was driving on
Oh, that's
208,
right, yeah.
and I was coming off, and I saw Assembly 1, the plates, and I looked over, and it was John.
Yeah.
I said, hello.
Look, I think John's
He's a great guy.
a good man.
Look,
John's a good man.
To be honest, when you were running in the primary, I was kind of put in a tough spot because I love you and I love John. So it's like parents fighting, right? So I was kind of like,
Yeah.
what the hell do I do?
But look, here's another thing, Ronnie. I did not go negative at all. You know, early on, you know, my first mailer, you know, my campaign team back, you know, in the day, you've got fluff pieces, you've got contrast pieces, and you have hit pieces. You save your hit pieces
Right.
for when you want to attack people. Their team sent 23 mailers out. 23 mailers. 16 of them were negative against me. And they led with negative. I didn't send out a negative.
What were some of the negatives?
Oh, it was Holly's
Because
favorite.
I don't live in 39, so I don't
Oh,
know,
yeah,
but-
that's right. Holly's favorite was, he's a loser, he's a liar, he's a liability.
Okay.
But the real, not problem, goes back to what Jack DeLorenzo said. Jack DeLorenzo said in that meeting with everybody there, when I explained to him the math of why it's in danger, not about me running, why 39 is in danger, Jack DeLorenzo said, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Our job is to protect the incumbent.
Okay.
And I made it clear to him, your job is not to protect the incumbent. Your job is to protect the incumbency. The incumbency is more important than the incumbent. The seat is more important than the candidate. And he said, if you decide you're going to jump in the race, I'm going to get Holly and every single mayor in District 39 to endorse those guys against you. Which is kind of strange because I wasn't there to say I was running. I was there to talk about the 7 or 8 races I had worked on in the prior couple of years. Almost every one of them beat the BCRO. And I explained to them, this is what the problem was. So when he said to me, if you do this, we're going to get everybody to endorse. Look, I knew what was coming. They went negative early on, but the real, issue that they had, that they said was a mistake and it wasn't, they went out and they started talking to every single mayor. Hey, we've got to protect the incumbency. You've got to endorse Bob and John, which I guess is the thing they should have done to try and, I thought it would be one of the bullets in their revolver, one of the, arrows in their quiver. But they sent out endorsement letters to towns who never endorsed them. Mawa was one of them. Waldwick was another one.
I saw that on Facebook. But, I also saw on Facebook that I think part of the reason why they were saying that you were dishonest was because I saw some posting where you said that you were Trump endorsed, right? But that was in regards to your run for Congress, not for your run for Assembly.
It's funny you say that. I went back and looked at them. Every single post, mention, mailer that went out, it was dated on when I was endorsed. I even said at the end, past endorsed. It was for Congress in NJ05. The reason they didn't like that, Holly and her team didn't like that, was Trump, among Republican voters likely to vote in a primary, were 81% favorable to Trump. So their view was, shit, he was endorsed by Trump, and our guys weren't. In fact, nobody running in any of the Senate races, or the Assembly races rather, were endorsed by Trump. But it was true. The dates were there, but they decided to say, Frank was never endorsed by Trump. He's a liar for this campaign. So they played, look, I don't want to say dirty because politics is dirty. You have to know when you get into it. But for Holly to send, Holly, Bob, and John, because Holly was part of it, she did make a lot of the calls, to send out endorsement letters from the mayors of Mahwah, the mayors of Waldwick, saying that they endorsed the Arthur team, and they never did. And then there was never any correction. You know, there's a lot of people in Mahwah.
So how is your relationship now with Holly and with the 39 team?
Oh, look, it's about party.
Right.
And if there's anything going on in the party where a Republican help, where I notice something, that's what you're supposed to do. You know, Holly has always reached out to me when she needed help in the time that I've been involved. She wanted to do a hit piece letter on Bob last summer because Bob was recruiting people to run against incumbent candidates. So you talk about Jack DiLorenzo saying we protect the incumbent. Bob Oth was bringing in people to run against incumbents for county committee.
Okay, for county committee.
For county committee and for council,
right?
Recruiting council candidates. So Holly reached out to me.
39?
Yeah.
Okay.
In Old Tappan specifically, but other towns. And Holly reached out to me and said, you know, I want to put out a letter. So Kelly helped design the letter because that's what she does. I have no design capability. Yeah, okay. No design capabilities. And I have an extensive email list, but I also have a connection with printers to get it done quickly, get it out the door. I didn't even go to a printer. I printed it myself over at Staples, stamped it, folded, put it in an envelope, and sent it out. And I didn't do that for any reason except Holly and I had a reasonable enough relationship.
Okay.
So in August of that year, when I thought about jumping in the race, I wanted to talk to her. And I sent her a text August 24th.
You still remember the actual date?
And I'll tell you why. August 24th, I reached out to her and said, hey, Holly, I'd like to talk to you about District 39. I think you know my interests, but I want to run a few things by you. Now, we had probably had 30 or 40 text exchanges in the prior 60 days, emails, texts, because of what was going on. August 24th was the last time I sent a text that didn't get a response from her, up until now. The entire time that I had asked her, I had sent multiple texts, 15 or 18 texts, emails, and voicemails. I want to talk to you. I'm not in the race. I'm thinking about it. I had talked to John about it.
Right.
Now,
so it's been more than a year since you've spoken to Holly.
No, I've seen her at events. She kind of pops in, and I get the half Holly wave. But I specifically, look, she reached out to me. I respond usually within an hour at the most. I reached out to her, days went by. Reached out again, weeks went by. Never to say, hey, I want to run.
Right.
In one of the texts, I said, look, for years, you never had anybody supporting you. Now you've got John. Not to say Bob didn't, but the Bob-Holly conflict is well known. Now you got John. Wouldn't it be great to have me in that group as well? Because she knows I supported her. I've always been. And I said it to her in a text. My job, my role would be to help support you. Now, I didn't say I'm coming after John. I didn't say I'm coming after Bob. I was looking to run for the people in 39. Right. Let the people in 39 choose based on the information they have in front of them. They decided the information people in 39 had to see was Frank's a loser, Frank's a liability. Let's send out fake endorsements. Those fake endorsements, I don't know how many it went out to, but my guess, Ronnie, a few thousand people it went out to. So they did what they had to do to make sure I lost, not to make sure they won. There's a nuance, there's a difference to that. And when you kind of dig that deep, I mean, it pissed off a lot of people that they went that hard. There were people that would get 2 and 3 mailers a day in their home. I
guess I'm glad now that I don't live in 39, because then I'd be getting a lot of mail, right? Like a lot of mailers.
You'd be getting a lot of mail. Right? But look, they looked at the math they needed to win. And
so I guess an unintended consequence of you running was that you kind of made them closer, right? Because I guess prior to you running, maybe there was friction between Holly and
I still think there's friction. There's still friction.
Running actually got them closer, right?
Negative. They didn't get them closer. I personally think that the team was given an ultimatum, and it was, you guys need to figure out how to work together, and this is the organization.
And now they know how to work together.
They don't
Thanks
work
to Frank Pallotta.
No, they don't work together. They ran together. They ran on a ticket together.
Right.
If you look at their Facebook pages, aside from the events where they do speeches, they don't knock doors together. They don't campaign together. That was one of the reasons they won by the thinnest margin that they did. There was never any Holly, Bob, John knocking on doors. John and Bob knocking on doors. Conversely, if you look at the LD40 team, which is right next to 39, Kristen and Krista Phillips and Al Barless, they're out all the time. Just by the time people listen to this, go on your Facebook pages. Go on the District 40 Facebook page. Bob and John don't even have a joint social media page. So it doesn't matter to me. Like, it really doesn't. I run, honestly, for the people of New Jersey, for the people in the district.
Do you have any regrets in that race? Like, do you regret running or
no? No, I don't.
No?
Look, it's you run a race obviously to win,
right?
But I ran an above board race. The flyers, the emails that I put out were truthful, and theirs weren't. And if they won based on them putting something out that wasn't truthful, my thought is go back to the Biden laptop, go back to Russian collusion. They ran and spun a story based on lies, and if you spin it enough, then people believe it. So if people choose to believe what they want to put out, look, here's the other thing. They spent, and I don't know the number, I didn't look at all of it, but between the BCRO, whatever PAC that they have, I think Tommy Toscano runs a PAC that does what they do, Holly, John, and Bob, I think they spent close to $300,000 on me. Arguably the most expensive primary race in the history of probably New Jersey, although I don't know, I haven't looked at them, just to beat me. Like, the thing is, was I that bad a guy? But the BCRO had directed those three, anybody but Frank. And there's clear reasons for that.
Also, to play devil's advocate, right?
You like playing devil's advocate.
Well, this is real talk, right? But I mean, one could say that had you not run, right, they wouldn't have to spend $300,000 on attacking you, right? They could have used that money elsewhere towards other races. So what if they make that point?
Oh, they can make that point. You win or lose races based on how you run your race.
Right.
Like, I was outspent by Nick DiGregorio 3 or 4 to 1 in 2022. And I won that race. It's not the money. You win and lose races on 3 things: your money, your message, and the marketing strategy you use to get that get the message out with the money you have. That's it. I outspent my opponent, my primary opponent in 2020, and I won. I was outspent 3 to 1 or 4 to 1 in 2022, and I also won. Again, you got to know the math, and I think those guys pretty much figured out, I don't care how much it costs, we're going to dump so much money. Like, right now, John Azari's ELEC account is negative $300,000. So they're not, you're supposed to raise money too. They really don't raise the amount of money.
They could say, well, we wouldn't be in the negative if Frank didn't run, right?
Exactly. And you know what? Maybe they wouldn't win, because if they didn't run against me, odds are they probably wouldn't have run in the general. Look, if they...
So it's tough love.
No, look, the one advantage might be is they got their name out there a lot more. Because John had low name ID.
And John was the top vote getter in that
John was the top vote getter. And there's statistical reasons why that happened that we don't have enough time to go through on this, but my team knew that John would get more votes than Bob. And as this thing was rolling, there's a dollar cost that you can ascribe to votes to money spent. And by the time the 20th mailer came out, you kind of knew. And even my wife said to me, she's like, what do you want to do here? Because the thing is, whether it's Holly, Bob, John, me, whoever, you, when you run, you don't run alone. Your family is part of your team.
Yeah.
And the money you spend, the money I spend, is not Frank Pallotta money. It's Pallotta family money. The money I raise in part because people think I will do a good job.
Right.
So I do what I do to try and win a race, but I keep it above board.
Well, that's enough about the assembly race. I just hope that at one point, perhaps 39 and you can come together on Real Talk, and we can kind of just like hug it out. Right?
If it's still in Republican hands.
You don't think it will be next cycle?
Look, I don't know the answer. Right. Jack is an incredible draw.
Okay. So let's transition over to Jack. Okay.
Okay.
So Jack is running this year.
The upper card here.
Yes. Your thoughts on his race this year? I mean, I think he's got the momentum on his side, right?
Yeah.
He recently got endorsed by a bunch of Democrat mayors, right?
Yeah.
Nick Sacco from North Bergen, right?
Yep. We had a mayor switch
Benary,
parties.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, he's getting a lot of support from Hudson County. First of all, why do you think that is? I mean, like, why would these Democrats kind of go out of their way to support Jack?
You know, it's a combination of two things. One is maybe people see the same momentum that you do, and they want to be on the right side. But it might honestly be for the same reason that you saw independents and some Democrats break for Trump. The Hispanic vote broke for Trump.
I mean,
Why?
do you think it could be because they're just kind of hedging their bets? Because Hudson County is so Democrat anyway.
Well,
so
yeah,
they come out, they endorse Jack, and if Jack wins, they can say, hey, look, we endorsed you.
I know,
if Jack doesn't win, then it's like, you know.
I'm still a Democrat.
Right, yeah.
No, but you know what? I think the tea leaves in the Trump win, Trump won Passaic.
Right.
And he won Passaic County, but I also think he won the town of Passaic. So I think Democrats have thought forever,
Right.
We got the minority vote. We got the Hispanic vote. That wasn't the case. So I think Jack has got momentum, not because he targeted the Hispanic vote. I think Jack's got the momentum because his message resonates with the Hispanic vote. And, you know, Jack has done a fantastic job at making himself available to a lot of people. Jack has been running for 4 years. He's got arguably the highest name ID of any politician probably in the history of the state, except maybe Trump.
Right.
But keep in mind, you know, Jack is also running against, you know, the Kamala Harris of New Jersey.
Right.
Well, she doesn't have a lot to say.
NJ Kamala.
Yeah,
right?
but she doesn't have a lot to say.
Right.
And I think when people start paying attention, look, your electricity bills are up, you know, anywhere from 20 to 100% this past cycle. You know, when you go to the grocery store, when you're looking at what's going on in the schools, and then you decide, you know what, let me just turn on CNBC, NBC, Fox, CNN, whatever you turn on, you know, you're going to get the spin of who's ever sitting behind the desk, but you are going to start to hear what Jack is putting together. And then you're just forced to say, well, what's Mikey having to say? What are the Democrats saying? And you start to ask yourself, how have the last 8 years gone? I think they sucked the last 8 years. You know, we've got higher unemployment rate than the state average. Our schools, you know, were locked down for a while, for a couple of years. Businesses were shut down. You know, Jack, I think, is the sort of guy, I know people talk about, you know, MBA CPA versus a lawyer. That's bullshit. It's who has the more practical responses, the practical solutions to what's affecting me today.
Right.
If the state was in decent shape the last 4 years, Jack would have a very tough time because you win elections based on anger and excitement. If you're excited about Jack and you're angry about what's been done in the state, that's the marriage you need. And by the way, going back to LD 39, I don't think anyone's excited about, you know, look, you know how I campaign. You know, the worst part about me campaigning is my wife wanting to know what time I'm going to home to make dinner. And in the middle of the campaign, I'm coming home at 9:30 or 10 o'clock, and I would ask her what she had for dinner, and she would tell me rye toast. Isn't that a jail meal? But the thought is, now going back to Jack's race, Jack is letting people understand through his words and actions, he's one of us. And I think that's what people want, Hispanic, Korean, Italian, Jewish, whatever it is, that's what he's providing solutions.
So in your honest heart of hearts, right? You think Jack wins this year?
2.5 point win.
Yeah?
I don't know if this is going to run before that, but I smell a 2.5 point win. Because I don't, look, the polls that were 6 weeks ago had Mikey by 20 were bullshit.
Right.
The polls that had Mikey up by 9, they weren't bullshit because Mikey was up, but Jack was in the right spot at the right time, and electric bills started to hit in July and August. And that was it. So I think what the key, Ronnie, is your independence. 40%, 41% of your New Jersey voters are independent.
Independents are breaking for Jack.
Independents are breaking for Jack. They probably didn't break enough for Jack the last time around. Plus, Phil Murphy had the power of the incumbency. Power of the incumbency is worth anywhere from 2 to 4 percentage points. Jack lost by 3.
Right.
So that became the deal. I'm glad he, you know, jumped in as quickly as he did. Some people, you know, will bitch and moan and say he should have fought it. maybe he should, maybe he shouldn't. Rolled up his sleeves, took about 2 days off.
This year, I think Jack has history on his side, right? I mean, I don't think any Democrat has won 3 consecutive terms in 60 years?
Right. Yeah, but before that, a Democrat in 50 years hasn't won 2 consecutive terms.
Right.
So I'm not a history guy where you've got to look back. It's a situational. Every campaign is its own situation. And Jack, I think, and I'm a Spadia fan. I'm a Jack fan. I like what they both have to say about what they're going to do with businesses, how they're going to help schools.
Spadia, right?
Hold on, I got to finish.
Sure, okay.
But this comes down to right place, right time. I don't think Donald Trump would have won 20 years ago. I don't think he would win 20 years from now. He was the right guy at the right time with the right message. Jack is the right guy at the right time with the right message. How do I know that? He had a pretty convincing win in the primary.
Right.
And and of course, you don't have independents in the primary. So this becomes a question of Democrat-Republican turnout, and you can estimate based on primary turnout what's going to happen in the general election. What you don't know is the independent turnout. But you can factor it in. This is kind of where the probabilities come out. This is where I think 39 may be in trouble, and this is where Jack is in a better spot. Independents are breaking for the person they believe in because they've seen him and they know him. Independents don't know John and Bob, in my personal opinion.
Right.
And they started coming after me, starting with the fake endorsement letter, all the way up until the day of the election, I think. Like I said, 23 pieces in 91 days. 23 mail pieces in 91 days. We're 26 days from Election Day right now. They've not sent out 1 piece of mail. Now, it's not because they don't have money, because John dumped another $150,000 into his race. So they'll probably come out with something, but, there's more Democrat vote-by-mail voters in 39 than Republican vote-by-mail voters. Okay, we already said they're 50-50. If there was no vote by mail, I think we'd be in a better spot. Vote by mail, they have a 3-to-1 advantage over us, over Republicans. And even though, and I know that there's some people out there saying, oh yay, Republicans are returning vote by mail at a higher rate than Democrats. They're returning at a 2% higher rate. So as you see, they can't see this here, but my whiteboard's got numbers everywhere. And the truth is,
you know how Karl Rove has that whiteboard?
Has the whiteboard.
This is like a supercharged one, right?
But what you're not supposed to look at the percentage increase. I think the BCR likes to say things like that to make people excited. What you're supposed to say is we're behind by like 2.5 or almost 2 3/4 to 1. We're behind. So on election day, we're already in the deficit. So what I do is I go back and say, well, what happened in the primary? How did Republican, even though we're not running against each other, we're running our own separate races. So my analysis was how many Republicans and how many Democrats showed up for the primary. And the Republicans lost vote by mail, Republicans lost early voting, and Republicans lost same-day voting. It's the first time ever we lost all 3 measures in a primary. In 39. In all of Bergen County. But in 39, we got smoked. We lost every single one. We lost vote by mail 4-to-1. In the primary, but the registration differential is only 3-to-1.
Right.
So there's no chase. There's 2 things you look at in vote by mail, Ronnie. You look at registration and the chase. The registration is your denominator. The chase is your numerator. Bergen County is terrible at both. We're one of the lagging counties in getting people to register overall and vote by mail, and we suck in the chase because we don't have bodies.
Like Scott Pressler and the group that he's running.
Here's the thing with
Bergen County a lot.
Yeah, I know people that are working with Scott Pressler's team. Here's the difference between Bergen County and Scott Pressler with Bergen County and Scott Pressler when he goes to Pennsylvania, for example, where he's had miraculous success. Scott doesn't get people registered. Scott rallies the troops and the leaders within the organization. This is what you need to do. Go out, go out, go out, go out. When he leaves a Pennsylvania rally, from what I hear, there's more kids than they can buy clipboards for. They're out, they're knocking on doors, they're making phone calls. Everything is coming in, they're doing the right thing. In Bergen County, Scott Pressler leaves a Bergen County rally and there's crickets. And how do we know that? You look at the registration differential. you're not supposed to just register Republicans. You're supposed to register more Republicans than Democrats. You're supposed to get vote-by-mail voters. Whether you like it or not, and Republicans don't like vote-by-mail, you're not going to get rid of vote-by-mail until we beat vote-by-mail and then get rid of it.
So vote-by-mail is still like a grim situation in Bergen County and in New Jersey for Republicans, then how do you see Jack making up that difference and actually winning by 2 or 3 points, as you stated?
Because Bergen County is only one county. It's the largest county,
right.
But Jack has got a couple of advantages. He is killing it in every other county.
Right.
That really matters. And Scott Pressler is doing well in all the other counties and getting people registered. Bergen County is lagging in these metrics. So I don't know how Jack will do in Bergen County. We lost Bergen County 4 years ago by 15,000 votes. Now, just keeping things even there, we're probably doing a little bit better in terms of numbers. Independents are breaking more right for Jack.
Right.
So I see Jack doing better than losing by 15,000. I don't know where he's going to be, but his overall state numbers, he's going to win in spite of Bergen County, not because of Bergen County.
Okay.
So that's really where I'm coming from.
So you mentioned Bill Spadia, right?
Yeah.
I've met Bill many times. He's also been on the show. He's a nice guy, right? Mm-hmm. But what do you feel about him basically refusing to endorse Jack? Do you think that's going to have an effect?
I don't think so. I think the anger factor of voters being angry with the situation they're in
right.
Is going to be. But look, a lot of Bill's supporters, I don't want to say they've moved over to Jack. They've decided it's better to have a Republican than a Democrat. Mm-hmm. So I think that works. I didn't know Bill very well. Bill campaigned for me when I was running for Congress. Great speaker, radio talk show host like you.
Well,
you're all good.
He's a little bit better than me, but
but
he's got a few more followers.
Why he did? Look, I don't know. I don't know the
right.
reason why. I know theirs was very contentious.
Yeah.
I don't think Jack sent out a fake endorsement letter over Bill, like I had against me.
Right.
Look, Bill is a smart enough guy. Look, Yankees lost in 4 games or 5 games. I don't remember. They're not going out there high-fiving the Toronto Blue Jays after
right.
they lost. But they understand it's better, you go back, you do your homework, you figure out what you did, right, you figure out what you did wrong. And the problem Bergen County has is when you win, you're not supposed to high-five and say, yay, we won. Maybe you do that for the first 10 minutes. You're supposed to go back and in my history, my background on Wall Street is you don't high-five when you win. You high-five when you figure out how you could have won by more. Mm-hmm. Then you say, shit, we won by 3 points. We should have won by 6.
Right.
So you underperformed. Mm-hmm. I personally think 39 underperformed last cycle.
Okay.
Because they won by 11 3/4 points, they dropped it. But nothing was done. When you lose, you're supposed to go back and figure out how you could have lost by less and maybe turn it into a win. That's what I did in my race, in my 2 primary races.
So back to Jack's race,
yeah.
right? So, recently Mikey Sherrill's campaign has been rocked with the fact that news came out that she did not walk with her graduation class
right.
because she was in some cheating scandal, right?
Right.
And I think you mentioned that this information was obtained by your former opponent in the primary for Congress, by Nick, who you mentioned before, right?
Right. Yes.
Right.
I don't think that was the real problem because I think people knew Mikey didn't walk.
Okay.
I think they wanted to find more of the details behind it because not walking, there could be 1,000 reasons why.
Right.
What Jack has asked for is her disciplinary records.
Right.
Because, she mentioned something about, she knew there was cheating, but she didn't report on them. It's the, Marine Code.
She didn't want to rat them out, right?
Yeah, but, that's, look, I think there's something more to her not walking because she just didn't rat them out. I think there's more. And when you run for public office, especially a statewide office, you're an open book. You're supposed to disclose everything. And when you don't, it says to me that there's something wrong. But going back to, Nick, and it was public.
How is your relationship with Nick?
We see where it's cordial. I mean, I don't think my relationship with Nick is any different than it was in 2022 or 2021. He's younger than me. His kids are younger than me. He can bench press a Buick. I can't. But Nick, we're in different stages of life.
Right.
But look, I think Nick was pretty sore that he lost the primary in 2022 when the Bergen County Republican Organization threw all their weight behind him. and said, you're going to win, you got the line, you're the man, you're the man. And Nick is a smart guy, I think. I didn't look at his SATs, but I have tremendous respect for his service. And you don't do what he's done without having a good head on your shoulders. Nick, I think, was arguably, one of the better candidates to come about. Some would say on paper, Nick was a better candidate than you. I don't think so. I've got more experience. I'm older than him. My experience is in the private sector. Nick's was in the military. Right. I don't think there's any difference. I think we both want to do what's best
Apples and oranges, right?
Yeah, best for the country, best for the party. But if I were Nick, I would have run his campaign against me differently.
Okay. What would you have done differently?
You think I'm going to tell you now? But look, I think it was clear. I won in 2020 against somebody who was very well known. He had very high name ID, higher name ID than I did.
We're talking about Josh, right?
No, in the primary.
Oh, in the primary.
In the primary. He had higher name ID than I did. And, I had a team, by the way, that wasn't a Bergen County team, except for Mike Casey, but I got rid of him in the next campaign. But I had a team that was from Hudson County, from Sussex, from Warren, from Passaic. Why? Because it's a 4-county race. Bergen County in 2020 was 62% of the registered voters. So you had to make sure that you did the math on how much of, if you're going to lose this, how much do you win this by? If you lose by this much, how much do you win? So you need to do that analysis. And Kenny Gonzalez back then was part of my team. Right. And, we had a tri-variable analysis going on what we had to do. Now, I think you remember, the Bergen County Republican Organization canceled the convention that year. There were 2 people in 2020. Right. They said it was because of COVID, but I think there was only 1 or 2 conventions that were canceled. There was a dozen other ways, but they decided they were going to, and we can get into that later, they were going to cancel the convention. And what they then did was awarded it to my primary opponent. Now, back when we had a line, the organizational line has a value of, depending on which cycle, 14 to 21 points. So if neither candidate do any campaigning at all, no mail, no door knocking, no phone calls, nothing, the candidate with the line will win by 20 points.
Right.
Okay? But I had to run a race that accomplished 2 things. Narrow the margin of what I thought I was going to lose by in Bergen, and extend the lead on what I thought I should win by in Sussex, Warren, and Passaic. And that was my formula. So I ended up losing Bergen County by only 4 points, even though we talked about the line being worth 20. Right. So I beat the organizational line by 16 points. What I really succeeded in was having all those people from the different counties be part of my race, because I won Sussex, Passaic, and Warren by 25 points. And that was the difference.
Because I made up for the...
Made up for a 4-point loss.
Right.
So my point there is, 2 years later, after redistricting, Bergen County is not 62% of the district anymore. It's 72% of the district. So the organization said to Nick, you don't need the other county. I know this. You don't need the other counties. You're going to get the line again this year, and you're going to win because it's 3/4 of the district is here. What Nick didn't understand and no one else understood is, between a presidential year and a midterm year, you get a fall off in turnout, right? The highest turnout is during a presidential. The second highest turnout is either gubernatorial or midterm. Right. So having 62% of the vote, 72% of the voters registered in Bergen, when you factor in the turnout differential, 72 becomes 62. Because Passaic County, Peter Murphy does a great job of turning people out. So does Sussex County.
So basically, effectively, you're saying there's no difference then between 2020, 2?
2020 and 22. Well, I won both, but here's the difference. Nick, my opponent in 2020 won Bergen County by 4 points with the organizational line. Nick ran 2 years later, also had the organizational line. He only won by the same 4.5 points. So the truth is, I campaigned in Bergen County the right way to the right people to solve for exactly what I solved for 2 years earlier. Even though 10% of the voters overall in the race itself, more of them were in Bergen County, and I still killed it in Sussex. I never stopped running. That's the one thing I will tell you about Jack Chittarelli. Jack never stops running. And too many candidates run and lose and disappear. Like,
Well,
getting back to Nick.
kind of like me, right?
Well, no. Well, you had two things called kids that were infants.
True.
But that's the thing, Ronnie, is people have to see you and know you care. And when I wasn't running, I was helping run campaigns. And I won with Kelly's help, but I probably helped, after my 2020 loss, I was involved in helping, I think, 6 campaigns run, including Woodcliff Lake, Carlos Rendo's team, that Carlos had a 0-6 advantage. He was a Republican mayor. He didn't have one. So I was helping people run in conventions.
How was your relationship with Carlos, by the way? With Mayor Rendo?
You can't not like Carlos.
He's a great guy.
You can't. Carlos is a great guy. I like his wife more than him.
Okay.
She's much more personable. But, look, Carlos was one of these. Carlos was in that meeting with Jack DiLorenzo.
Right.
And, Carlos is one of the ones that brought me in and said, Frank was one of the guys that got us 2 flips in Woodcliff Lake. It wasn't Frank, it was with the help of the team. But we figured out what it would take to flip the 2 seats, and we flipped them. Danielle Feedy won the mayor of Bogota in a 3-1 Democrat. She's a Republican woman. She won by 4 votes. And I got to give Kelly credit. She basically, every minute of every day leading in the Bogota race, she was working on Danielle. Up to and including when she finally got an extra couple $1,000s near the end, she wanted to hold it off. She said, look, win or lose, let's have a party. And Kelly, God love her, said, one more mailer. I think that one mailer won her that seat because they challenged it a couple times with a recount. So, and then Gail Kelly, who was running in a primary off the line in Franklin Lakes, right. Kelly and I helped her in her race, and she won. And that was when the words were spoken, I heard, by Jack Ziza at the time.
Wait,
I can curse on this, right?
Sure, go ahead.
Even when he's not running, he fucks us. And he was talking about me. And I wasn't looking to screw with anybody, Ronnie. Right. My thought is, I'd like to get behind good candidates and help them run good races. And in those 6 races, I was 6-0.
Well, Gail Kelly, she was running for council, correct?
She was running for council.
Right.
But she was an incumbent that wasn't given the organizational line. So she was running. I don't think anybody's ever won the organizational line. Won a primary
without the
organizational line in Franklin Lakes, and she did,
right?
Because we did what we had to do by marrying the art and the science of getting the right message out and deciphering it and putting it out there in a way that I think makes the most sense.
All right. So back to Jack's race. When it was revealed that Mikey Sherrill did not walk with her class, right?
Right.
I think you mentioned that this information was first obtained by Nick. And you had issue with that. What was the issue?
Well, I didn't have issue with obtaining it.
Right.
FOIA requests are legal. It comes under the umbrella of opponent research. So what he did was perfectly fine. He filed the right forms. He submitted the right forms. In fact, I think the name was misspelt, or they misspelt the name wrong, and they came back, and Cheryl was spelt with 1 L. But long story, a little bit longer. The information that Nick got was legally obtained, so that wasn't an issue. The issue that Mikey Sherrill's campaign had was the information that was sent to Nick was mistakenly unredacted. Social security number, parents' address is public, social security number is not, health care information or health insurance information is not public.
Right.
So that information, the mistake of the group that sent it to Nick, that was their fault. Now, if Nick just forwarded along, it's fine, because he got it. The mistake would have been the people who sent it. Nick admitted to CBS News in an interview, and I don't know if it was personal or over the phone, he knew it was unredacted, and he knew it was wrong, and he knew he shouldn't have had it. So what I would have done...
How do you know he said this to the CBS?
He said...
how do you know he admitted this?
Oh, that was in the newspaper. That was in the news.
Okay.
That was Nick basically said, yeah, I knew I shouldn't have had it. I think the word he used was, I was shocked that they sent me this unredacted information, but he forwarded it anyway. So my thought is, if you knew it was wrong, send it back to them. Wipe your hands clean and say, this is wrong. I know it's wrong. Right. I obtained it legally. You sent me the wrong stuff. Send it back to me redacted. Then he forwards it along, and that would have been fine, because that's called oppo research.
Right.
So he knowingly forwarded along, and I think he put Jack's campaign in a little bit of, I wouldn't even say jeopardy, because Jack was surging. This was Nick's fault. Nick is not on Jack's staff. at all. Chris Russell is, and I think in the news it said Chris Russell asked Nick, and Chris and Nick are friends or friendly, and said, why don't you see what you can find out on Mikey, which is something I would have asked as well. They're both military. Nick did the right thing, filed a FOIA request, got the information, but then admitted that I shouldn't have had it, and then forwarded it along.
But this information has, objectively speaking, it has helped Jack, right? Because it's brought this issue to light.
The higher level issue absolutely helps Jack, because it brought to light, wait a minute, you didn't walk with your class, and you're not explaining why.
Right.
Now, Nick could not have obtained her whatever records Jack is telling her. Nick, that's not FOIA-able. Other information is that wasn't. So it did help Jack to the extent, not Nick's information. It did help Jack to the tune of, look, what you sent us, everybody knows it's legal. What you need to send us is those records that would indicate whether you did something wrong. And she's not sending those, and I think that hurt. Okay. Look, Nick made a rookie mistake. It's probably one of the reasons he lost in 2022, listening to the BCRO and trying to be the guy that says, look what I have, instead of being a little more, and I think that's a little bit of the age differential.
So, I'm going to play devil's advocate one more time.
Not like you.
I hope Jack wins, right? And I think a lot of people are confident that he's going to win. And I'm one of those, right?
Right.
But what if Jack loses? What happens then?
To the state, to Jack,
to to everyone. Like, where do we go from there?
Look, the odds look good,
right,
that he wins, and you've got to apply some. This is typical Wall Street. You apply some probability to an outcome, and then you hedge yourself, and you factor in, or you try and determine what happens if you win. Look, let's talk about if he wins. If he wins, he's got a huge job ahead of him. It'll be great. He's going to high five, but he's still going to have a minority, because we're not going to win the assembly. We're not going to win. Well, the Senate's not up this year. We're not going to win the assembly. I think Jack has got great coattails. He helped get six or seven flips in 2021, and then when he wasn't on the ballot, we lost 6 of them.
Right.
So I think we're down 13 or 14 seats. There isn't anybody calling for a change in the assembly. So Jack has got line item veto power, which is powerful. Jack is also a pretty good negotiator.
Right.
So Jack's big job is going to be, what can he do that doesn't involve going to the assembly, and what does he need to negotiate? And there's some things, and he's been clear about what he would have the ability to do on day one. Has to do with judges, has to do with executive orders. So that's the stuff he has to do, and that'll take a number of months to kind of manifest itself. But you'll see early on, Ronnie, and this is where I trust Jack. He's a Jersey guy. He's not telling people, this is what I think is right for New Jersey. He's telling people, this is what I think is right for my family. And my family is no different than your family. We're in this together. People believe that Jack is in the same boat as them. If he doesn't win, and I think it's a question of if you get blown out by 10 or if you lose by, 16 votes in Bergen County who don't show up. If he doesn't win, I feel bad for the state. I know that U-Haul moving trucks will be making their way to New Jersey.
Well, the thing is, if Jack doesn't win this year, then can any Republican ever win statewide?
Look, Mikey's a disaster, like Kamala was. Jack is, in my opinion, one of the most exciting candidates, one of the most qualified candidates I've seen. Chris Christie was a prosecutor. He had a different style. Not that an MBA, CPA is everything, but when you look, when I ran my campaign, I ran it like a business. Too many candidates who run their campaigns run it like, hey, look at me. Look at what I'm doing. And they don't do the legwork. They don't go out there. They don't, John and Bob, I haven't seen them out there at all. Now, they may win, that's great, but again, they will win in spite of and not because of.
Would you help them campaign?
I've never been, I don't think they're going to ask.
No, but
Holly, Bob, and John,
asked,
I don't know what they'd want me to do.
Would it be awkward?
No, it wouldn't be awkward for me. Okay. Look, I'm the president of the Model Republican Club. We had a huge booth and we had a huge gathering at our tent. Mawa's got one, probably behind Paramus, the largest town day in all. We probably had 11,000 people come by. Jim Wasaki and the council do a great job at bringing people in. It was the 30th anniversary. It was terrific. I sent out emails to every single candidate. the commissioner candidates, anybody who touched Mawa, I sent them an invite and said, come by us. I'm running the club tent. We can put your materials out. We can do all this stuff. I got responses back from everybody except the District 39 team. Not one response. So people were asking me, and I sent an email out again. I'd reached out to the staff and said, what are you guys doing? Not one response back, which is apropos for BCRO strategy. So Mawa Day comes and the kids, all of a sudden, Holly, Bob, and John with their minions show up, and they start putting, they're looking in the corner of their eye, and they're putting their bags down and their materials down. Now, I don't care. It's not personal at this point. The right thing to do is respond to the person who sent you the email, because it's not run by the BCRO. It's not run by Phil Ross and the county committee, which I'm part of the county committee. That's the elected group within Mawa. It's a club, and the club runs it, so you have to notify someone in the club. Nobody called. So they stayed by the tent maybe 4 minutes.
Do you guys want to say hi?
Well, look, I think, Holly knowing what she did to me personally, knowing that all three of them knew fake mailers went out without an explanation or a correction or anything like that, very sheepish. I shook John's hand. John at least had the balls to extend a hand to me. And, he's another one where, I like Michelle. I don't dislike Carlos. I like his wife more. I love Tanya. John's wife is a fucking rock star. She and my wife are the reasons John and I, enjoy the lives we have, because we've got his son JV. He's another great kid.
Oh, yeah,
so I don't have a bad relationship with John. I just think John.
So you guys don't talk.
Well, no, I think he was stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Right.
John and I were very good friends. John knows I helped get him in that.
Well, I hope you guys can kind of get it together.
It's on them, not me. They beat the shit out of me with lies and mailers.
Would it help to have a real talk peace summit here?
It's not. No, it's not. It's not up to me to go, hey, great race. In fact, funny you should mention that. I had reached out to him the next day, or I was getting ready to reach out to him. Maybe it was the day after, to congratulate him. And I won't use the guy's name because I'm sure he'll be pissed. But I get an email from a text from one of his buddies. Now, this is a ridiculously wealthy individual, which is who John hangs out with. Not because he chooses to, but he lives in Saddle River. John, he's a doctor, very well read, smart guy. And one of his friends sends me a flurry of texts. You're a loser. You're a loser. See what happens? You got to win something big, but just berating me. I'm like, you're the guy that thanked me 2 years earlier when I helped get him in. You weren't running. I never said anything about you, and you're sending me texts berating me. Look, I got the same thing from Tim Walsh is posting on Facebook. Mike Casey is posting on Facebook. After the race, loser. Is this your world? So I was going to answer the question, I was going to reach out to John and go, you know what? Not the outcome we wanted, not the outcome I wanted, but congratulations. I did send him something. It was a little different than that. It wasn't mean, because I love his wife. But I sent something. But I saw how...
But you still love your wife more, right?
I love my wife more than his wife, just to say. But I love Tanya more than John.
Okay.
And JV, I think I like more than both of them. But look, you're supposed to do what most candidates do. You move on. Marco Rubio moved on. He was little Marco, but they knew that was part of the game. The fact that...
And by the way, Trump the other day said that Marco could go down as the greatest Secretary of State.
It's still too soon to tell, but he's.
But they've come a long way.
They've come a long way.
Here's
the thing about Trump. Say what you will about the guy. The business background with him, look, I think he's a smart guy. What he really does well is he surrounds himself with a lot of smart people. And we can go back to 2016 when he won. The economy, I don't say it was shit, but we were running 1.25% GDP growth. And I knew his economics team. I worked with them at Goldman. I knew Steve Mnuchin. And I knew what they were going to do if Trump won was three big things. He was going to, put together a new tax plan, which unfortunately included a SALT issue, repatriation, and bringing money back into the country, and... what was it? regulatory reform, reg reform.
Right.
And his economics team said This country is not a 1% GDP growth country. We're a 3 to 4% GDP growth company, and that's what's preventing it. He has real economics people behind him, which, by the way, I believe Jack Ciattarelli is going to do the same thing. He's going to put people on the affordable housing team that know housing.
Right.
He's going to put people on the economics team that understand New Jersey economics and jobs and judges and things like that. So that's where I think, going back to if we lose this governor's race, which I don't think is going to be the case, I have zero trust that Mikey Sherrill has the wherewithal, except for saying, look at me, I'm governor, has the wherewithal to put a team in place to help us get out of being ranked 48th, 49th, or 50th in every measurable metric that leads to prosperity and success.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I mean, she knows how to fly a helicopter.
I heard she was a helicopter pilot.
But anyway, you know, me, you know, I ran for office twice, right? And as you know, probably better than most people in politics, you meet a lot of nasty people, a lot of fake people, right? But you know, John Azarides is one of the ones that I love, right? I mean, he's a genuine, nice guy.
Genuine is a good word,
and I love him.
Except when he listened to the BCRO that Frank can't run.
But you know, it's just my hope that you guys can maybe get together and kind of break bread, because you know what? And not to trivialize the whole thing, but if Israel and Hamas can make peace, I'm pretty sure you and John can too, right?
I hope I'm the Israel part of this, but look, it's the thing with me, and my wife knows this about me. This is what happens when you marry an Irish girl, and an Irish girl marries an Italian guy.
Right.
I have a very long fuse and a very long memory, and you don't just come after me. You come after my family. You can't come after my family. Patty has been. Like, we know each other. You met Patty. She wears the pants in the family. Now,
I like her more than you, actually.
There you go. But you know you don't do this without wife's sign off.
Right.
Patty doesn't like politics at all.
She's smart.
I'm the type A, and she's the brains of the operation. She doesn't like politics. There isn't a thing in my career, personal or professional, that I've done that she said no. I mean, she might have said no, you're out of your effing mind.
Right.
But she's gotten behind Ronnie everything I've ever done. Whether she liked it or not, she said, we're in this together. And so when these guys came after me, and look, John was part of it. When your name is on the bottom of the mailer, paid for by, I don't care what you say about, oh, Pete Sheridan created it, or Holly spoke to, this mayor to get them. I didn't speak to, your name is on it, you own it. Just like being a CEO. Stock goes down, your name's at the top of the list. So I have a long memory, but you know what? The right and wrong is different than left and right. Mm-hmm. And look, I don't know if they're going to reach out to me. I honestly think I would be one of the better legislators in the state. Either, Congress, because I'm not a lawyer, nothing personal, but like I live in a world where the numbers make sense. And when I was pretty successful at what I did on Wall Street, I was in securitization sales.
Right.
You have to do business based on what's in the best interest of your shareholders, your customers, and your coworkers. That's what you do. You're not supposed to care about anything related to politics, shareholders, customers, and the people that you work with. There's no difference in politics, Ronnie. Your voters are your customers. And one of the best compliments I got when I was out there campaigning was Democrats telling me, I like you, I'm going to vote for you. I didn't even know you were a Republican. Mm-hmm. I like what you had to say. And that's what I think people get from Jack.
Right.
I don't think that's what people get from Bob Off. And that's my personal feeling. Because I know a lot of Democrats in Mahwah. Mahwah's pretty split. There's more Republicans than Democrats, but it's the largest population in all of 39. And people have said to me, I don't get return phone calls from him. I don't get anything from him. And that's sad because you don't run and win to legislate for Republicans. You legislate for your district. And, I've done business with people I didn't like because it was in the best interest of my shareholders. And I didn't do business with people I really liked because it wasn't the best interest. It wasn't in the best interest of the company I worked for. Right. So that's the thought with me. Where, Holly, I think she's too wishy-washy. Holly tries to make everybody happy. When she needed me, she needed something run, she needed something done, she needed numbers, I was one of the phone calls. When I was looking to run, I think it was a combination of, this is my personal view, not personal. Jack.
Well, wishy-washy or shrewd politician?
Wishy-washy. She's not a shrewd politician.
Okay.
My personal view, she's not a shrewd politician. Jack Zisa and Jack DiLorenzo did not want me to run for a couple of different reasons, none of them having to do with being a good legislator or doing the right thing. They don't like, in my opinion, they don't like people who don't jump when they say jump. And I'm not that guy, except when Patty tells me to jump. Then I bitch and moan, and then I jump. Oh, how high? Where do I start? So, look, that's the thing with Holly, look, I hope the seat stays in Republican hands, because I'd rather have a Republican than a Democrat.
Right.
But I want somebody in that seat who does what's in the best interest of the people that they were elected to serve, Ronnie. Okay. And, remains to be seen. Voters make the decision, not me.
2 more questions.
I'm here for you.
I know you got to go see your mom. District 9.
Yeah.
District 9. Billy's running again, right? His 4th time?
Billy is running again, yes.
Any thoughts on that? Do you think he will seal the deal this time? In 26?
Look, this goes back to money. This goes back to money again.
Right, yeah.
I don't know. Billy hasn't, as of now, I haven't seen what Billy posted for the third quarter, but his opponent is sitting on $1.1 million. She raised $490,000 this last quarter. The number that they showed that Billy raised was $1,400. You can win being outraised and outspent 2 to 1, 3 to 1, 4 to 1, 5 to 1. You're outspent 1,000 to 1. You can get a lot of work done. Billy's he's clearly more exciting than anybody running. I think
what
he's got
about the organic support that he brings to his campaign, though? Like his followers, his
you know what?
fan base?
70%, 65 to 70% of the voters who vote on election day never see the candidate. They never hear the candidate, and in that district, you have more party voters than people voters. Okay, and this is how we know this, and this is you can use Bergen County as a good corollary there. You have a lot of counties in Bergen that vote, in Passaic County, that vote party. Trump was an exception. He was the exciting guy that made them say, they're responsible for your lot in life, I will change it. And, whatever it was that changed, it made a change. If you don't have your name out there, Billy's got great rallies, he's got great rap. Mm-hmm. There's 232,000 people in a legislative district. I don't know how many people are voters.
Right.
You can't reach them all by having rallies on Facebook. Billy's an exciting guy. I want to see emails. I want to see him raise money and do, not Facebook videos. I want to see something published. I want to see cable is ridiculously expensive, which is why you need to raise $1 million to win. But if people get a taste of Billy Prempeh, they're going to vote for him. They have to vote for him. His problem is not who he is. The problem I think we're going to have as Republicans in CD9 is, how do you get your message out? Right. Money, the message, and the marketing strategy to do it.
I'm going to pose an idea. I mean, you're good at raising money. Why don't you help Billy raise money?
Well, look, I think people who help raise money are not supposed to raise all the money for the campaign. When the NRCC came in and gave, I keep hitting this, sorry. When the NRCC helped me with my campaign, both times, they helped me with my campaign. The NRCC is not supposed to fund your campaign. Mm-hmm. The NRCC is supposed to help you fund your own campaign. Okay. So
they help you help yourself.
They help you help yourself. Okay. Now, in Billy's district, his district is so tight from the last polling I saw, they're not going to help him, 1 out of every $100. I think they'll come a lot closer. For every $100 he raises, maybe they give him 20. I don't know the answer.
But the NRCC, they are going to help in District 9, though, right?
I don't know the answer. The NRCC has to solve a math problem, right? They run across the entire country. And the NRCC does a handful of things. They segment the entire country.
But I guess at this point, it's safe to say that District 9 is more winnable than District 5.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. With money.
Right.
But the NRCC's job is not to say, that's a winnable district. Let me write these guys a check in North Carolina, but he's not raising money for himself. Because then what job is that? Their job, the NRCC's job, and we talked about this with Jack DiLorenzo, who didn't understand this, the NRCC's job is to maintain the majority. Period. That's it. They don't care who it is as long as it's the majority. You start losing, your luster and your margins, they're going to look for somebody else because they want the majority. So they segment the country into 4 or 5 groupings. If you're a Republican,
right.
the Republican candidates who are running, who are in a R plus 50 district, they still raise their money, but they're going to win. So the allocation for money will be limited there. On the other side, if you're in a D plus 50 district, you better have something, or they're going to stay away from that because that's throwing good money after bad. So you look in the middle. They're going to look at keeping the seats they have in districts that are challenged and flipping the districts they think they need to flip to get more seats that are close. That's how they segment everything. And then they figure, now we have $100 and we have to look at these 4 categories. Okay, we're going to put $1 here, we're going to put $1 here. Now we have to figure out what to do with the other $8. Or is it $80? I don't remember. Is it $100? With the $80 or $90, right. And then they start to separate it, and they have something called the Young Guns list. I was on the Young Guns list twice, and there's different levels of Young Guns, and the more money you raise, the more following you get. If you write $1 million check, that's great, but you don't have a following. That's not attractive. Right. If you raise $1 million but you don't put your money in, that's better. But they want to see. So to answer your question, why would I help him raise money? I've already reached out to him to help him. I have a wildly extensive, and we'll go into something real quick. I know you had 2 questions, but my email distribution list, my constant contact list is 155,000 people, 65,000 in Bergen County alone. I am helping probably 6 or 7 races around Bergen, Passaic, and around the state because they know I have a list, and I don't charge anybody anything. I don't want you guys to understand that that's what's always going to happen. I don't charge them anything because I want to see good people win. Right. Last cycle, I reached out to Billy and said, look, I didn't have a lot, but I have a lot more now in CD9. I can send emails out. Emails are free. They're not free to me. I pay a lot of money to have 150,000. Right. But this year, I went to the commissioner candidates. There are 3 of them running. I have 66,000 emails just in Bergen County. And I said to Jay, Andrea, and John Denise, who's a Mawa guy, I said, guys, I got 66,000 emails with on average a 32% open rate. It was 6 weeks before election day.
Right.
And I said, my strategy is to hit every single person at least twice a week,
okay,
with a 30% open rate. And you're talking about over 500,000 touches. And they said, no, we're good. They don't have enough money for mail. The lawn signs that were produced, from what I heard, they misspelled the commissioner's name wrong.
Which one?
It wasn't Costa. That's easy.
Okay,
it was either John Denise with an I or Andrea Slowakowski,
right,
which that might have been the one because there's lots of.
So the current signs that are out right now are wrong?
No, I think the current, they had to do a rush. So now they've got, look, my personal opinion, if it was Andrea's name that was spelled wrong, put it out anyway. If someone's driving at 40 miles an hour on Route 17 and your name is Slowakowski, you're not checking to see if the O and the W
right,
or the S and the I are the same. Put it out. It's name ID, it's muscle memory, that's what you do. So, but my point was, you're being offered 65,000 emails with a 30% open rate with 15, 20, 30 emails.
And they didn't take the offer.
I was told
right,
that the BCRO said to them, just like they told Holly and John and everybody else, don't use Frank. And my response would have been, are you effing kidding me? We have no money. You have no money at the BCRO. Mm-hmm. We've got two people that are running, the fundraising.
So do you think it's at this point maybe like a pride thing?
Against me?
Between BCRO and you, if they're telling the county candidates to not
You know what?
The
BCRO leadership has to put on their big boy pants. They have to. Do you want to win or not? I'm not the be-all, end-all, but you're supposed to check, Ronnie, every single box you can. Shit, we don't have enough money for mail. Okay, let's do lawn signs. All right, you're not supposed to spell the candidate's name. By the way, they spelt my name wrong on something in 2020. But, okay, so you've got screw-ups there that don't know how to produce a sign. They don't raise money. And now you've got somebody come along who can hit 500,000 hits over the course of the next, 6 weeks, 6.5 weeks, and they say no. Look, I had a decent relationship with that group. The BCR, look,
which group?
The commissioners.
Okay.
Look, I know them all.
Right.
Like I said, John Denise lives in town.
How do you think they do this year, frankly speaking?
Frankly speaking?
Frankly speaking.
Look, here's another one.
Right.
the
I'm a little biased, but I think, our slate from 21 and 22
was one of the better slate.
Were
Well,
pretty good,
look,
right?
there's you are what the back of your baseball
Right.
card says you are.
Right.
You guys won by pretty thin single digits. Right?
You mean we lost by
I'm
2?
sorry, you
Yeah.
lost by, right. So I don't know the answer, but here's the gauge.
Right.
The Democrat organization in Bergen County is sitting on $1 million. The BCRO, last I checked, was sitting on $40,000. And they printed wrong signs. So we haven't won a seat, Ronnie, Bergen County, in 13 years. So they have a better operation than we do at the county level,
Right.
not Bergen County. And here's the difference. In Bergen County, we have more Republican mayors and council than we have Democrat mayors and council. Now, you might want to say, okay, what's the big deal? We only have 25% Republicans, 35% Democrats. So how do we have more Republican mayors and council in Democrat towns? It's easy. Dan Pronti's a rock star. Carlos Rendo, people like. Mike, who's the guy in Westwood?
Westwood.
Oh God, who's the
name? Is
Ray Arroyo.
Yes.
Ray Arroyo in a Democrat town does so well, they don't even put up a Democrat candidate for mayor. And we have those guys. But if we have that kind of advantage at the local level, how have we not held a seat? Not one of the 11 seats we've held in 13 years. You want to know why? The higher you go up in an organization, the higher you go up in a campaign, I don't want to say it's easy to win mayor and council, but it's easy to get your hands around the issue because you live there. And when you're Ray Arroyo looks at his constituents, Democrat or Republican, and they say, he's my guy. And they vote for him. They don't give a shit whether you're Republican or Democrat. When you move up and you go from one town that you're running to now running 28 towns, 16 towns, 13 towns, you need organization within your own campaign, but you also need organization within the organization. You have to. Vote by the candidate, Ronnie.
That's why I feel like when I was running for a county commissioner, that was a much tougher job. With all due respect,
Oh
running
no,
for Congress, right?
Absolutely. I only had you and I both had 72 towns. All 72 of yours were in Bergen County.
Right.
So you needed the organization. With me, I had Sussex, which was a great organization. Pete Murphy ran Passaic County. I would drive through Passaic County when I was running, and there were lawn signs everywhere that I didn't pay for. Because when Pete has an event, 400 people, Pete Murphy, 400 people show up. When Sussex has an event, 250 people show up. That's what they do. And they run a nice, good, fat, a surplus of money to help candidates. We don't do that here. For I think 3 straight years, we had no money. We were negative. And you need money to win. You need the right candidate to win, and you need the right message to win.
District 38, what do you think this year?
I like Barry. I like
Rob
Kaiser.
Right.
I think they're good, but they have more money than the BCRO. So I think they're in a better spot. I think the advantage they have, Paramus has really come around in the last 4 cycles. Not just legislative cycles, but their own races. Rob Kaiser is from Paramus, so you've got that advantage. Bergenfield is a disaster. And here's the thing: I don't know if everybody knows what a county commissioner, what a county committee seat is, but the bigger your town, the more county seats you have, and your county, your county committee is supposed to be involved at the town level in gathering votes, making sure that operationally, politically, it's run the right way.
Right.
Paramus, Mahwah, a lot of the bigger towns have completely filled county committee seats with a waiting list. Bergenfield, I think they have 38 seats. I believe 32 are vacant. Englewood
who is the chair of Bergenfield?
Oh God!
Is it still Norman? Norm?
No. Norman Schmelz was never. Norman Schmelz was the mayor. Norman Schmelz was the last. Norman's great. People love Norman. I wish Norman a couple years ago would have run for assembly, and this is why. He was the mayor of the biggest town that we have the biggest problem with. And I think people would have voted for him because they knew the name. So now, to answer your question on 38, that's going to be a problem. That Bergenfield is going to be a problem because we have no ground game. You need a ground game. And that's the responsibility of Fred Sahlberg, who's the municipal chair, to answer your question, and Jack DiLorenzo and Margaret Frontera. That's when they basically sit back, they put the map out, and they say, how do we win this thing? Well, I think we got Paramus locked up. I think we got some problems here, here, and here, but our biggest problem with the biggest population is Bergenfield. What do we need to do? And then you gather your troops. You gather Mike Casey and Tim Walsh and these guys who don't do anything and say, okay, you guys need to get volunteers and knock on doors. If you look, it's easy to see the decline of Bergen County.
Well, I mean, Mike, he's actually been around. I mean, he's like everywhere. I see him on news channels. I think he was on the Matt Gaetz show, right? So he's actually been doing a lot.
Yeah, Mikey's been around a lot too, but she sucks. He doesn't suck.
Right.
But the operatives in Bergen County, everybody's a chief, nobody's an Indian. And if you look at Passaic County, if you look at Sussex County, they've got a good group of young Republicans and another big-ass group that are coming up the curve. And young Republicans, teenage Republicans to young Republicans to people who run for office is your farm system up to the pros. We don't have a young Republican club. I mean, we have a name, but, we've got,
Well, Tim is the chair of it, right? Tim is the chair of the Bergen County Young Republicans.
Right, and we have no presence. All you have to do is look at the volunteers that go out and knock on doors, the ones you don't pay. So by definition, there would be a volunteer. But we don't have people. We said, look, when I told you my campaign, we had volunteers all over. It was an exciting campaign. We had good people. We had the good, Kelly was a good manager. We had Kenny Gonzalez. We had all these different people that were able to get other people excited. There's no excitement. And I'm not beating up Barry or anybody else. It's the fault of the organization. And when the organization doesn't create enough excitement, like the RNC or the DNC for their candidates, that's their job. So I think it's going to be close. I think for a number of cycles, District 38 was in play. I haven't looked. I don't know if they're in play. I'd be surprised if they weren't, just by the resurgence of Paramus. But I do know after 20 or 2021, District 38 and District 36 were both in the top 5 in the state to run. Al Mastrofilippo is one of the people who ran, who did incredibly well with no money.
Well, Al and Rich Garcia and Jerry Taylor, they ran in 21, the same year that I ran the first time.
Yeah, they did really well without a lot of money. So what you're supposed to do as an economist is say, okay, it's a 2-year cycle, let's get these same guys. Or maybe you make a change here or there, you find out what they did right. A pretty prominent senator came to me after that race and said, okay, we came close. 38, I think District 38 was, in the year that you ran, was the #1 flippable district.
Right.
And I don't remember who ran in that for Assembly in 38 at that time. But
in which year? 21?
Yeah, well, who ran after Al and those guys? Was it Barry and Gail? I don't remember.
I believe
or was
so.
It?
So in 23, right? In 23, who?
Yeah, I don't remember.
I think it was Barry, and Gail.
Whoever it was.
Gail Horton.
In the BCRO, they wait and wait and wait, and they cross their fingers that by the time you have to hand in your letter of intent on the deadline, they pray that somebody does it. In Sussex County and Passaic County, they know who's running in 26, 27, 28, and 29. They look in their farm system. They say, okay, which districts are checked? Pete looks at, he's a bar owner who knows the numbers better than anybody in the state. And he knows. George Gilmore's another one where he knows his state and his district. And he will tell you 2 years from now, you know what, this town is going to be in play because this guy's retiring, this guy's not running. And I remember Pete telling me, I know you said 2 questions, but we can talk for hours. You can cut this as you see fit. But when Nick Gallo was running a bunch of years ago for commissioner, Pete Murphy said to me, he's going to be the top vote getter. And I'm like, he's never run before. Right. He goes, he's going to be the top vote getter. I'm like, well, you had somebody who ran a good race before that running as his running mate. And Pete said, the economy is shit. People are going to want to change, and when they want change, they look for a comfortable name they know. Nick Gallo had a landscaping company with multiple trucks. They know the name. The muscle memory of the name. Might as well be vote for Nick, because he was running it for years. He was the top vote getter. That's when I knew the guy knew his shit. Was, it's when you're the Bergen County Republican organization and you wait and pray and hope somebody steps up, and then you don't give them money and you don't give them time and effort to run,
So,
it
Frank,
becomes tough.
I mean, why don't you step up then if you've got all this complaint against the county, right? Like, why don't you run for county chair?
Look, I thought about it.
Right.
Here's what Jack Zisa did in, what was it, last year? When was the last county?
I think it was last year.
Last
right?
year.
Right.
Okay. When the people you put on the line, because it was the last time there was a line, the people you put on the organizational line to run, we talked about there being a value to that. Jack Zisa, the chairman, is supposed to leave it up to the municipal chair.
Right.
You come to us with the line, unless it's, a serial killer, we'll go with you because you know your town better than anyone else. And really, does the chairman take a look at the list that the municipal chair provides and goes, no, I don't like this guy or that guy? In fact, it's so rare. In the last 10 years,
Right.
it's only happened 10 times total. Right? And there's 1,100 people in the county committee in all of Bergen County. Maybe 900, but it's not a handful of people. So in 2024 alone, Jack Zisa and Margaret Frontera, I don't know who made the ultimate decision, but they're the elected chair and vice chair, so I'm not picking on anyone. They did it on average once or twice per year for the prior 10 years. Jack Zisa knocked 70 people off the line for the election going into the county committee elections. 70 people in one fell swoop, including Mahwah, my town, where he knocked 17 people off the county committee, off of the organizational line, including a blind woman. And he did that because he figured, shoot, this is the last time we get to use the line. I don't want Frank to run against me. And I've had plenty of people tell me that. I don't know if I was going to do it, but I do know the Bergen County Republican organization needs organization. I have organization. I would have cleaned. So to answer the question, the reason I didn't run was the math was just ridiculous. When you knock, and Jack didn't just haphazardly say, oh, I don't like this guy, I don't like this guy. I think he went after the towns that he thought would not support him in a county. Now,
So he went after the Pallotta people.
he went after non-Zisa people.
Okay.
Because there's other groups that didn't like what Jack was doing. I don't know if they liked me, what I was doing.
So how do the numbers look now in terms of the county committee?
Oh, it's a shit show.
Yeah. No,
It's a
I'm
shit
saying
show.
if you were to run, would you have a chance at winning?
The next cycle?
Yeah.
I wouldn't run.
No.
I wouldn't run. It's like trying to run for the CEO of a company and everybody in leadership, your C-suite, are all trying to stab you in the back. I do know I have. Look, if you look, I know it's not on camera, that upper left-hand corner was my plan on what I would do with the BCRO 3 years ago. Why I know we're losing everything. And, there's a couple things I would do, and I think Jack felt as though, all right, I don't want Frank I don't want the fox in our hen house.
So, okay, last question, okay?
Okay.
Do you have any aspiration for political office in the future? Because, once you run for office and you get that bug, you will never get unbit, right? So it's like...
Look, I want to serve.
Right.
Right there. And service in the political sphere knows no title. Whether it's, council, mayor, assembly, commissioner, governor, whatever it is, service is service. One, it's more Patty's call, because like I said, the last 30 years, she said, you want it, go for it. I enjoy being behind the camera, and I enjoy being in front of the camera.
Well, I think next year is the county executive race, right?
Yeah.
Any thoughts on that?
We're not going to win that. We're not going to win that.
Something you would jump into?
Well, here's the thing. The county executive, by definition, is an executive position, meaning it's not a legislative position. So having somebody like Jack Chittarelli, who's a governor, it's an executive position. It's a different skill set than a legislator. So here's why I don't think we win county executive.
No, but would you do it?
Would I run?
Yeah.
Here's the thing. You talked about it before.
Right.
There's 70 towns.
But you got a lot of energy.
I do have a lot of energy, but the problem is I don't think the BCRO knows how to organize. And they haven't won in 13 years, so they don't know how to win.
So why don't you run and organize?
Because as I told you, the higher up in the races that you look at, the more you need an organization. You can't run alone when you're going from 1 to 13 to 30 to 70 towns. You just can't. You don't have the ability. Bergen County is the most populous county in all of New Jersey with 960,000 people. There's no way you do it. The other reason you won't win is the same reason I would protect anybody who tried to hit on my wife. Is the county executive is the prize. It's arguably one of the most powerful positions in all of New Jersey.
Right.
You've got a budget of $787 million and more than 2,000 jobs. They are going to put, and by the way, that's how they're sitting on $1 million, Ronnie, right now, is everybody who's got a job.
Yeah, pony up.
Pony up. Yep. And it's the right thing to do. Look, at Goldman Sachs, if the chairman liked Josh Gottheimer, they would tell all their partners, hey, I like Josh Gottheimer. What does that mean? You better write a check.
Right.
So the answer is, if we had an organization, I might think about it. If we weren't down 11 seats to 0, I might think about it. If Tedesco, who I don't think is doing a great job, but has enough name ID, we wouldn't do it. The last thing I will say about these races, Tedesco already announced that he's running.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
For the unprecedented, fourth term? Or
right.
Third?
What I personally think is going to happen, and the Democrats do this better than the Republicans, is you never see a Democrat challenger run, ever. And here's why. If Tedesco wins, if he runs, he's going to win because it would be like the Yankees playing against...
hand it off to someone else?
Hand it off to somebody else. And it's not just handing it off to someone else. They would move somebody up, somebody over, another person up, another county committee. Like, they shuffle the deck so that when the next election comes around, all the people who shuffled, they're already running as incumbents. We don't do that. The BCO thinks it takes money to win. It doesn't. It takes wins to bring money. And until they realize what they have to do to win, and they do the analysis and they surround themselves with the right people to win, we are going to lose race after race
Frank,
after
why
race.
don't you be the change you want to see, right?
I would. I didn't even have to be the chair. If they came to me and said, you know what, we like your ideas, that's why I went at Rendo's behest to sit and talk to Jack DiLorenzo, because I basically went to them with what I thought would be a decent formula to win more seats. And Jack DiLorenzo sidebarred all of that and said, if you run, we're going to get everybody to run against you. So this became I personally think, I don't think they want to win. I really don't. I think they like the title, and the worst New York Mets team, the worst Cubs team, they never went 0-40, ever. So it's one of these things where you have to really do your homework and figure out, okay, what seats do we want to win? And I wouldn't say in this race, but for example, if you think there's a commissioner race coming up and you can't win 3 seats, find somebody where you think you can win 1. Tell the other 2, you know what? We're putting all our time and effort behind this one guy because he can raise money. He's got a good name. We're going to go after this person. I don't know if this is a year or 2 down the road, but you need to get a foot in the door. If you try and get 3 feet in the door and you can't raise any money, you're screwed. So you put all your time and your effort and your money. I won off the line. In 2020, Frank Pallotta sat there alone in column 5, and Donald Trump and everybody under him was in column 1. I was in column 5. I won the primary. Why? Because I found out what it would take to win. I did the math. I figured it out. And everybody else in column 1 except the guy I ran against. You got to do the math, Ronnie. And that's my thought. So to answer your final question, if they wanted my help, they can ask. I've always been there. I sat with them, and when they told me that you're here for me to tell you we're not going to support you ever, and we're going to come after you, and then they followed through. Holly followed through. Bob followed through. John Azariti followed through.
Well, you know me, I'm a peaceful guy. My only hope is that you guys can all come together, that we can all come together, right? And
I'd rather Bergen County come together.
Right.
You're going to have...
if Real Talk is the venue to make this happen, then I'm glad to provide it.
You know what, Ronnie? From your mouth to every single legislator's ears here.
Right. Frank, thank you.
No, thank you.
This is number 6, number 7, right?
I don't know, 6 or 7.
I lost count. But anyway, always a
appreciate
pleasure to catch up with Frank Pallotta.
Yeah.
Good friend and maybe future candidate. Who knows?
Who knows?
All
The
right.
day is young. I'm not.
Check out Real Talk with Ronnie. Go to realtalkronnie.com, or you can check us out on our social media sites on Facebook or on Rumble. Just search for Real Talk with Ronnie. Also on YouTube. All right, guys. See you guys soon.
Bye now. Thank you.
Peace out.
watching and listening to Real Talk with Ronnie. To watch and learn more about our show, including ways to contact us and how you can be a guest, go to realtalkronnie.com.